Fired me over a joke. The boss tried to fire me over an inappropriate joke, but she forgot how she behaves at work herself. About 15 years ago, we moved to another city several states away because my wife got a position as a professor at a local university. We already had 3 of our 4 children, and although I mostly planned to stay at home and take care of the kids, I wanted at least a part-time job for extra income. So, I got a full-time job as a cook in a nursing home or care facility in the city we moved to. I have a culinary degree and years of experience working in small kitchens, hotels, and university kitchens. And this was a very small kitchen with outdated practices, far from professionalism and efficiency. Essentially, whoever ran the kitchen did what they thought was necessary, as long as it seemed logical to them. The current head of the dietary department, who hired me, had years of experience, but she was retiring, and her place was being taken by a kitchen employee who had been transferred there from the housekeeping staff. She had very little training and no certifications, but she was taking courses at the institution's expense at the same time she started the job. At first, everything was friendly and calm. We all got along quite well. My new boss, myself, the head cook, the queen, who had extensive experience in small city kitchens, and a former truck driver, the king, who had no experience but knew how to follow instructions and assemble dishes as directed. The facility administrator, the big boss, managed the entire place and all departments. I always conduct myself professionally at work until I evaluate the atmosphere and understand how relaxed it can be. But this incident taught me to always maintain professional behavior, regardless of how relaxed the setting seems. A few months after starting, everything was mostly fine, but the boss had issues with how I performed my tasks. I used perfectly standard preparation, cooking, and serving practices that she was unfamiliar with. For example, preparing dish components during quiet periods while the residents were coming up to get their food. She was used to just standing at the service window, waiting for the nurses to come up and call out a patient's name and their choice of dish, and then, while the orderlies were cleaning, she would hurriedly prepare the meal. I, on the other hand, only went to the window when a nurse arrived. The rest of the time, I pre-prepared vegetables, meat, and side dishes that would need to be put in the oven or on the stove for lunch, or I prepared something for the next day. This saved time and allowed us to avoid many overlaps, and sometimes even to prepare something extra for independent residents who might ask for lunch at the last minute. There were no more than 40 residents, and they came in gradually. One morning, the boss came in early to do paperwork and saw me preparing several deep pans of pork chops to put in the refrigerator until baking time. She was completely bewildered. "Boss, what are you doing?" "Me, pork chops for lunch. But it's breakfast time right now." "Yes, breakfast is ready and sitting in the steamer." "Well, you should be handing out breakfast." "I am handing it out. As soon as someone comes, I give them breakfast. I've already prepared the vegetables and potatoes. As soon as I put these pans in the fridge, I can start on the cake for tomorrow's dessert." "But it's breakfast." And so on, in circles. This was just the beginning of her attempts to remake my methods into hers, but almost every time, I resisted. At first, she would switch to "I'm the boss here" mode, but she didn't do it often because I had more experience, and I could explain that my methods were standard professional practice and much more logical than her approach. She never had a valid argument for why I couldn't do things the way I was doing them, other than "I don't like it." She had truly ridiculous ideas about how to cook properly. Several times she involved the facility administrator, the big boss. I would come to work and be told I needed to see her. Each time, I explained and proved that my methods were professional, and the big boss invariably agreed. Several times I proved that the boss's requirements were not only inefficient but sometimes bordered on violations or even directly violated food service and safety rules. The most egregious one was her being unhappy that she now had to bend down for boxes of meat, which now sat on the bottom shelf instead of being placed on the second shelf, above boxes of lettuce and other raw vegetables. I was told to keep working as I was used to, and the big boss would then go deal with the boss, who would then glare at me for the rest of the shift. This went on for months until the boss suddenly decided she could finally get rid of me through a trick. One day, toward the end of my shift, she called me into her office and said we needed to talk to the big boss. We went together, and the big boss said that the boss had informed her of my unprofessional behavior in the kitchen. She told her about a small, lewd joke I had once participated in with the Queen. We were unpacking a shipment, and everyone had a sausage tube of ground meat in their hands. As a joke, we hung them on the front of our aprons and started swinging them from side to side, chasing the king in front of the refrigerator with our meat dicks. Yes, it was unprofessional. Yes, it was childish. Yes, it was a bit gross. But it was far from the only instance of fooling around, and the boss herself had participated in similar antics. The boss thought she had finally caught me when the big boss asked if it really happened, and I said yes. The boss began explaining that she would not tolerate such behavior in her kitchen, that it was unprofessional. She loved saying this to me, considering I had more than once shown how unprofessional she was herself, that it was offensive, dirty, and blah blah blah. When she finished and the big boss looked at me, expecting an answer, I apologized and agreed that it was inappropriate and that I should have realized it at the moment. But I also explained that I had never joked lewdly, started inappropriate conversations, or participated in any unprofessional behavior until I saw that it was a common occurrence in this kitchen. I evaluated the atmosphere first, observing how they behaved. And only after seeing that they themselves considered it the norm did I allow myself to participate. I also explained that it was the boss herself who first made it clear that such jokes and conversations happened constantly. And only after she herself brought up such topics did I feel that I could participate too. Then I apologized again and said it wouldn't happen again, but that everyone, including the boss, should be judged by the same standards. The boss immediately snapped, asking, "What exactly did I do that made you think behaving so offensively was okay?" This was a huge mistake. I'm the boss, and who is Henry? She fell silent instantly, her eyes rounded, and she turned so red that it actually became a bit scary. The big boss looks at her in confusion, while the boss's eyes dart between us in a panic. I begin explaining that Henry is her vibrator. I know this because on my second day in the kitchen, the repairman came to fix the dishwasher again. It broke constantly. The technician was a guy the boss and the queen were staring at and giggling over. The queen joked that the boss probably breaks the machine herself just so he'll come fix it. At one point, he went out to his truck, and the queen told the boss she should just take a chance, ask him on a date or something like that. The boss declined, smiling and giggling, and then said, "Looks like I have a date with Henry tonight." The queen smirked, and I asked who Henry was. The queen told me it was the boss's special friend, and the boss added, explaining, "His big, red, has several vibration modes, and he even wiggles." I laughed, and she continued with something like, "A woman has to manage somehow, even if you have to buy batteries all the time." I clarified that the queen could confirm this and that there were surely other instances where the boss discussed such things or participated in jokes in front of witnesses. And that only after several weeks of such behavior did I feel I could act the same way. The big boss looked at the boss, waiting for excuses, but she only shifted from foot to foot and was extremely nervous. The big boss thanked me for my directness and said that from this moment on, such behavior was unacceptable for anyone. She dismissed me to finish my shift, and the boss stayed behind, presumably to be chewed out. After that, we had a few more clashes regarding my professionalism, but she didn't really try to talk to me much more. And a couple of months later, I quit.